It was a cold night, and the clock ticked yet again for another awesome midnight when only ghosts move around the city. As silent as it seems, it wasn't quite enough. Yes, not with the dead whispering among themselves, wondering why the six were yet to arrive to share another story. You see, every tale the six told was cherished by the deceased as well. Those lovely kids gave them hope, telling stories to keep them recalling the good old times when they walked among the living. One would wish they could go back to being alive again. Well, it could only be a wish. Once a person is dead, they transcend to the afterlife, where they are separated from the living. Chuckles and laughter echoed as Aisha and Dari propelled to their meeting point. Dari came right on time today since everyone else was a little occupied with the Children's Day celebration. Lara and Kings were right behind them, sharing the wonderful experience they had out there with other kids. Kings took his kid sister on a ride on his bike. Lara spent her time making sure the kids in her neighborhood had a lovely day. Eric sent a message on the group chat stating he would be running late. Well, Oma was already on her way to the meeting. It was a lovely Children's Day celebration, and in as much as they couldn't let it slip away, they also couldn't let the sharing slip away. A few minutes later, the six were already set. Silence engulfed the graveyard. The dead were attentive, waiting to hear another lovely story, perhaps one that reflects the love existing among children. I have a story to share, said Dari. Everyone turns to look at him. They were still determining if it was Dari who said he had a story to share. So they sat quietly. All attention was given to Dari. And so he began with his story. In the quaint town of Umuoma, nestled amidst lush greenery and tall trees, lived a pair of inseparable twins named Eliana and Noah. From the moment they were born, they shared an unbreakable bond that seemed to transcend the ordinary sibling relationship. Their laughter echoed through the woods, and their mischief was the talk of the town. But beneath their playful nature lay hearts of gold, always looking out for each other. Their childhood was a blur of adventures and shared secrets, their imaginations boundless, and their dreams intertwined. But as they grew older, their idyllic life took a dark turn with the arrival of their stepmother, Isabella. She was a woman with a cold heart and a calculating mind, her eyes harboring secrets, and her smile concealing malice. Isabella wants everything to herself. Nothing in the world would make her lose her chances of taking it all. She was told Thomas has great wealth. Not only that Thomas have great wealth, but he is one of the richest in Umuoma. Who wouldn't want a man like him? She thought, biting her lower lips. Never will another woman take her place. Never. She shrugged. Eliana and Noah had gone to fetch some firewood and were on their way home when she spotted them from a distance. Two evil kids, she thought to herself. She hated them with every beat of her heart. She would get rid of them before they made a mess of her plans. She thought again. Realizing that would raise dust, she quickly got rid of the thought. But there has to be another way. Isabella will never let anything or anyone stop her. She has come this far and will never go back. Eliana and Noah walked to the backyard and placed the wood they had on their heads on a stack of firewood enough to take them through the week. I am sure this would be enough for the week, Eliana said to her brother as she gently picked out sticky particles of wood from his hair. Well, it depends on how we use this. Ever since stepmother arrived, the woods no longer take us longer than it used to, Noah whispered. The terrible thing about this is that she is not a good cook like our mother, he said, his eyes scanning to ensure Isabella wasn't lurking around. Isabella has decided to prepare a delicious meal for her husband. Her meals are delicious to Thomas, but not to the kids, who are used to their mother's delicious meals. No matter how many ingredients Isabella put in her food, it was different from her predecessor's food. However, Thomas never complained about a thing. He loved Isabella and everything about her pleases him. But the twins remained undeterred, finding solace in each other's company amidst the storm of Isabella's wrath. Eliana knew there was something strange about Isabella. One night, while everyone held tight to their pillow, the cracking sound of the door woke Eliana from her sleep. She wiped her eyes and, narrowing them through the window, she saw Isabella sneaking out from the front door. The night crackers sang as crickets tickled their strings, blending their melody with the silence of the night, while a cold wind traveling to and fro a nearby river. Trees shook gently, not to bump into each other or cast the lovely birds they housed off their homely branches. As nature spoke in silence, Isabella arrived at the river ban. She stood silently as her eyes swung from side to side in search of possible threats. No one must see her out here, not even the night watchman. Thomas had no idea. He was in deep sleep, and so was Noah. Spirits of the night walkers, I am here again. I seek you, and I come bearing a gift. Isabella's voice echoed across the river. A bright light shone from the river. The gentle wind grew aggressive, taking out its unwilled anger on trees that managed to hold their grounds and all that were dependent on them for shelter. A giant serpent emerges from the river in its glory, her eyes like fire, and her gold skin so bright it overpowered the lurking darkness. Taking a bow, "It is I, your daughter, Isabella. I am troubled and have come to seek a solution from my master," she said with her face down. No one has ever looked the serpent in her eyes and lived to tell the story. "I know your worries, and I share in your pain, my beloved daughter. What are you willing to trade for your desire?" The serpent, Azula, asked. "Throw it into the river, and your wish will be done." Isabella, with her eyes down, threw her gift into the river and took a bow. Azula glowed, accepting Isabella's offering. Azula giggled as she descended to the bottom of the river where she dwells. At sunrise, Noah woke to the thought of what they had to achieve for the day. It's a new day, and last night, Father promised taking them to the market to buy some new clothes. "You should be the one waking me, and not me doing that to you," Noah said, shaking Eliana tremendously to wake from her slumber. "Come on, get up. It's morning already," the boy said to his sister. Eliana was yet to respond to his call. "Eliana," Noah yelled in anger. Why would she play deaf to him this morning? She knows they have a lot to do before Father wakes. He shook her and pinched her, but Eliana didn't respond to all he did. "Eliana, Eliana?" Noah's ranging voice softened. Eliana's body transmitted its coldness to Noah's tender hands. A cry of death echoed from Noah's room, distorting the silence of a new day, sadness stealing and amazing smiles from the rising sun. Echoes of death intertwined with the sweet melodious chatter of a million birds taking their morning devotion, alerted the villagers on what had happened to Eliana. "Eliana," tears rolled down Noah's chin as he called out to her lifeless body. Noah's hands slowly drifted from Eliana's cold body to cover his face. Just then, Thomas rushed in with Isabella behind him to know why Noah's little voice distorted the peace of a new day. And as Thomas took hold of Eliana, chilly waves traveled through his spine. "Eliana has left without saying goodbye." Eliana's death broke Noah. The vibrant little boy known for his cheerful life has lost himself to the death of his beloved sister. The world stumbled around Noah, who would protect him from those poorly groomed kids who threaten him on the streets, who would tell him sweet tales at night, who would share his thoughts and play his games with him. And as these thoughts dangle in his head, an ocean of his tears swallows him up. Thomas, too, is broken, but he has to be there for his son and the family. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, and the scars left by Eliana's death gradually fade away. Isabella drew Noah close and made him feel the love he had lost. Well, no matter what she does, she would never take his mother's and Eliana's place in his heart. Thomas provided all boy wanted to keep him from thinking about his sister. They promised to give him another sister, but no one could ever replace Eliana. Isabella's kindness began to take root in the family. Thomas saw she could take care of the boy and so left him to her care. Her strange ways poked Noah's curiosity. The boy was faced with a decision to accept her or not to accept her. There was something weird about her sudden kindness toward him that he couldn't puzzle out just yet. One gentle evening as Noah hunted for firewood, something strange happened. For every wood Noah picked, a multiple of 4 was added. Why am I having so much wood? He asked himself. He has just arrived here, and he has got enough woods to serve them through the week. The boy was worried about how he was going to carry the large wood home, and his mind walked back to the old days when Eliana would let him carry just a little while she took more. And recalling all of that, tears battered his shoulders. "Hey, why are you crying?" A voice came from behind. Noah turned to see who it was. Behold, there was no one there. "I will help you carry the wood," the strange voice spoke again. Noah's heart skipped beats. "Who are you, and what do you want from me?" he asked. "Do you remember how we used to play around the mango tree behind the house?" the voice asked. "Have you lost my bracelet, Noah?" the voice asked yet again. Noah's eyes widened. How could this be possible? He thought to himself. It felt like he had lost his mind. He could hear Eliana's voice in his head. "Eliana, is that you?" he asked aloud. "I told you I will never leave your side, didn't I?" The voice asked with a chuckle. "Let's go home. She is waiting. She is not to be trusted. She is evil." Eliana said, "Why do I hear you in my head?" Noah asked, "I am sorry, but that is the only way I can reach you. I am not in your head. I am here, but you won't be able to see me." Eliana poked Noah's hand to ensure she was not in his head. Noah grew scared, but his fear vanished the same way it came. A scale immediately fell off his eyes, and he could see Eliana. Eliana took a large portion of the wood they have gathered, leaving very little for Noah to carry. They both went home chatting, and anyone who passed by Noah looked at him strangely. They all felt he has lost his mind to his sister's death. Some of them said Noah was evil, and that he was the reason Eliana and their mother passed away. People always have something to say when they are blind to the truth or are probably curious to know what's going on in the lives of others. "Where have you been, Noah?" Isabella questioned the boy, her face holding a silly expression. Deep in Isabella's heart, she felt like giving him the beating of his life, but promised Thomas never to put her hands on the boy ever again. "You know you stayed so long out there. We will have to wait until evening before we can eat," she said, intent on punishing the boy. "I am very hungry, stepmother." "I took long because I wanted to gather enough wood for the week," said Noah. Isabella turned to the stack of firewood. It was more than enough to take them through 2 weeks. How is it possible that he brought all these woods home? She looked at the boy with a fiendish smile on her face. Noah reciprocated a smile, knowing Isabella's curiosity has engulfed her, but she had not the guts to ask how he came about all that wood. "This should take us over a week," she said fiendishly, pouting as she turned to the stack of wood a second time. "We still have to wait until evening. I have to rush now to the market. Take care of the house," she said, and left Noah to the stack of wood. "What should I get for you on my way home?" Isabella asked aloud. "An apple," Noah replied aloud. The smile on Noah's face faded away as his eyes met Eliana's gaze. She narrowed her eyes in despise. One can only be fooled when they have no idea about the plans of their enemy. Evil can never overshadow good. A good person will always be good no matter what, but an evil person would barely want anything good for anyone. "Why are you staring at me that way?" Noah grew uncomfortable with despise in Eliana's eyes. "She has been good to me ever since you left me. I have no one else but her right now," Noah said as he bent sadly to stack the woods properly. "Not everyone deeps to their words these days," he added. Eliana bent her face sadly. She has failed him. She promised never to leave him, and now he is alone in this world. Noah's words cut deep in her heart. It wasn't her fault, and only if he knew what had happened to her, he would be more careful with the witch. If only she could open his eyes to see the evil in Isabella's heart. Everything changed from the moment Isabella assumed that motherly role. "I am sorry I left you. It was never my intention, but something happened to me," Eliana said, her voice amplified by sadness and regret. "That is why I am here, to protect you from ending the way I did." Noah grew curious. His ears were itching to hear what happened to his beloved sister. He abandoned the stacking and walked closer to where she sat. Eliana usually sits on a log when she is tired, to watch Noah stack the woods. He could feel her pain and sadness because their bond was so strong they could read each other. "What happened to you?" he asked, tears rolling down his eyes. That was the question he asked himself for months. Eliana wouldn't have died just like that. Noah's instinct told him someone did something bad to his sister. Isabella was his prime suspect, but he doubted she has a hand in his sister's death. Isabella has been nice to him ever since Eliana's death. "Who did this to you, Eliana?" "She is not what you think of her. She is evil. You must tell Father to send her away." Eliana's voice conveyed a hidden truth. "Why do you say this about her?" "She is our father's wife." "She has changed," replied Noah. Eliana shook her head. She needs to reveal Isabella's secret to him. She touched his eyes. Noah almost screamed at the very sight of Azula's shadow. She covered his mouth. "Be quiet." His eyes widened. It took him a while to calm down and listen to his sister. "I have something to show you. Come with me." Eliana took Noah to the river where Azula dwells. It was quiet. The villagers barely visits the river occasionally. Azula comes out to the surface when the sun is at its peak. She gets her power from the sun and goes back into the river when someone approaches the river. "What is that?" Noah asked. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Azula at the surface. Eliana made it impossible for Azula to sense Noah's presence. She has studied the serpent since her death, and she knew Azula's strength and weakness. But she would not be able to destroy Azula. It takes a human to destroy Azula. Our stepmother is a witch. She gets her power from this evil serpent. She gave me as a sacrifice to this serpent, Eliana said with tears in her eyes. "How did you find out about this?" Noah asked. "That night, the night Eliana passed away, she tailed Isabella to the river and saw all Isabella did. Azula never knew Isabella was not alone. She would have destroyed Eliana the very moment she felt the child's presence, but there was a shadow protecting Eliana. On the other hand, a sacrifice to Azula is irrevocable, and nothing can save anyone because Azula is a powerful spirit. Eliana watched Isabella offering a sacrifice to Azul, but she had no idea who or what the sacrifice was about. She thought it was just a mere offering to the serpent. It was later that night that she realized what Isabella had done. However, it was too late to tell anyone what she saw. She gave you to her evil gods. Noah's anger reflected in his little voice. He knew there was something strange about Isabella, and he never trusted her kindness toward him. He was always careful not to fall for her evil plots. Whenever she gives him food or anything, he pours it away and goes to take another when she is asleep. I know you think she is a nice person. The truth is that she is out to take everything our father worked hard to gather for us. That was why she killed our mother, and when she realized I would be a problem, she took me, too. She is also planning to kill you. You know you are the heir, and everything belongs to you, Eliana said. She told her brother never to trust Isabella for any reason. How do we stop them? Noah asked. Eliana grew silent, a plan cooking in her head. She knows something that can kill Azula, and once Azula is out of the way, Isabella will die, too. Eliana whispered to Noah that they needed to find a Garcinia cola. It has the power to chase snakes, and it's a poison to Azula. They need to get the cola, grind it, and pour it on the surface of the river. Thomas loves Garcinia cola, but he suddenly stopped eating it after he gets married to Isabella. Noah nodded. No wonder their father stopped eating Garcinia cola. It would kill Isabella the same way it would kill Azula. I have a plan, Noah said. Noah and Eliana went home. When they arrived, Isabella was already home preparing something for dinner. Noah sneaked to his room and took some of his savings. Isabella was so busy she didn't notice the boy was in the house. Eliana, on the other hand, kept her eyes on Isabella and was ready to alert Noah if things went wrong. I have the money, Noah whispered to his sister. The two hurried off to the market to buy some Garcinia cola. Everyone who saw Noah talking on his way to the market wondered what has gone wrong with the boy because they had no idea who he was talking to or if he has lost his mind. After Eliana and Noah had bought the cola, they gave it to a man who grinded it into powdery form. They hurried off to the river to sprinkle the powdered cola on the surface of the river. The two ensured Azula was not at the surface during their operation. After all had been done, Noah went home with the remains of the cola. Isabella was asleep. Noah went to the kitchen and found the food she had prepared. He opened the port and sprinkled a little of the powdery cola on the food. He took a little of the food and sat down to eat. Eliana was with him. A few hours later, a scream echoed from their father's room. Isabella ran out screaming at the top of her voice. Thomas was on his way home when he saw Isabella scratching all over her body, rolling on the floor, and screaming helplessly. Her boy was on fire. She could not help herself, and her nails left terrible marks on her skin as she scratched helplessly. On Thomas' way home, he ran to her. He was about to help her, but Noah called out to him not to touch her. "What are you doing? Why is she on the floor?" Thomas questioned the little boy. "She is a witch," Noah said boldly. "She killed our mother and Eliana, my sister." "Take the powder and blow it on his face," Eliana said to Noah. Noah moved closer to his father and took out the powdery Garcinia cola wrapped in white nylon from his pocket. Thomas moved back. His body responds to the presence of the cola. But before he could blink again, Noah blew the powder on his face, and his eyes cleared. The spell Isabella had cast on him vanished. Thomas fell to the ground, overpowered by the spirit that fled his body. Some villagers heading home from their farm stopped by the river to draw some water, but found Azula's body floating on the surface of the river. They quickly ran to the king and reported what they saw. The king ordered some of the youths to see what it was and bring it to the village square. Azula's passing set Isabella's body on fire. Their connection is such that if something happens to Azula, all that worships her will die at sunset, and they will suffer tremendous pain before they pass away. What is she doing here? Thomas asked. His senses came back again. All his life, never wished to set eyes on Isabella, but the spell she had cast on him blinded his hatred for her. How did she get into this place? He asked angrily. Noah looked at Eliana. Eliana nodded. It was never father's will to marry again, but she charmed him into getting married to her. That was the only way she could take everything he owns, she said to her brother. Noah turned to Thomas, who was losing his mind to seeking answers to why the witch was on his property. You got married to her after our mother passed away, he said to his father. Thomas glared at the witch furiously. He hated the sight of her. He felt like strangling her right away. However, he called the villagers and handed her over to them. Isabella was brought before the king, and after the king passed his judgment, she was burnt alongside Azula. Isabella's shameful death spread across villages, and it became the talk of every town. Noah and his father lived happily. Eliana and Noah's bond grew stronger. She stood by him through time, protecting him and their father from all evil. The tale of the inseparable siblings reflected the love siblings have for each other, and it stood as a lesson for all those who are willing to learn. The end, Dari said in his silly Dari way. The little girl dressed in white began to laugh. She joined the group halfway through Dari's story. They stared at her with curiosity lingering in their eyes. There was nothing funny in all Dari said. Besides, it was a sad end for Isabella. What is going on with you? Oma questioned the little girl. Looking at Oma, she said, You are right. I am just happy I can speak now. The six glanced at each other. Dari must have said something to set her tongue free. She has never said a word since the day they found her crying by a grave. You are Eliana, aren't you? Lara said. Her grandmother told her the secret behind dumb ghosts. At the mention of their name, they are set free to speak. The little girl nodded. Indeed, her name is Eliana. Now, the six will begin their journey to uncover the mystery behind Eliana's death. But how will they gather the clues from her past?
I hope you enjoyed that wonderful story. We are here to bring you more insightful stories with great lessons to learn. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Turn on your notification bell to know when the six gather again. Thanks and stay safe.